Are we almost underestimating him in terms of the discussion about the best ever number nines?
We are witnessing records. We are witnessing history. And at this time of our generation, he's absolutely up there. I mean, you have a Lewandowski, and the funny thing is that he kind of took his legacy further on at Bayern, and you have Erling, and you have good nines around. But wow, Harry Kane is up there.
Hi and welcome to the Fussball channel. I'm your host Markus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjørtoft. We're both in London now, which is always a pleasure. We are going to go quickly into the Bundesliga highlights, but you are in London, you have followed the Premier League, so give us a little summary of how the weekend's been.
Yeah, even by my standards, when I did 2 games on Saturday, Liverpool, Everton, and Manchester United, Chelsea, that and with a lot of rain, and after the game at Old Trafford, looking for a cab. That is the luxury life of a football interviewer. You can hear on my voice that didn't help me. And then Sunday morning down to London, doing Arsenal, Manchester City, intense game, 1-1 at the end. But of course, following the German Bundesliga as well, which was quite eventful, I have to say.
It was indeed. And let's just address the elephant in the room, Dad, shall we, with Eintracht Frankfurt, because following a fantastic, historic night as such against home to Galatasaray in the Champions League, 5-1 it was. We got an equally eventful game in terms of goals scored, but it was Union Berlin that, against all odds, won 4-3, and it wasn't the best games of Eintracht, and perhaps following in similar vein from the Leverkusen game.
Yes, they didn't do well. I saw that game live. They didn't have a good game against Leverkusen, losing that game. But of course, doing 2 home games now, on the Thursday, on a Sunday, that takes a toll on any team, and you have to get used to this. And if I'm not wrong, of the 6 Champions League team in England, only 1 won this weekend. So that just shows you that even the most experienced teams can have that same problem. But Eintracht, over 2 games at home, they had 8-5 goal difference. Was it expected that they would lose against Union Berlin? Of course not. I mean, Union Berlin were 4-1 up, and then they somehow had a Rettungsaktion. They had an emergency meeting in their heads, and they nearly came back to 3-4 and maybe could catch a point. But I think that is a part of the curve. It's a part of a learning process that you, as a team, you have to get used to. It just shows you that you have to be on your toes. It just shows you that in the Bundesliga, sometimes people criticize that the only stable team in the Bundesliga is Bayern Munich.
It is, and especially when you're desperately looking for candidates to challenge Bayern and Eintracht. And I don't think they have demanded that on themselves, but perhaps the outside as such, looking for a candidate that can challenge them. 4-3, I did watch the game. Eintracht were poor. They were sloppy. There were a couple of the goals were just easy turnarounds in which they sloppily gave it the ball at their own half, but take nothing away from Union Berlin that had a game plan. Stefan Baumgart, they welcomed the pressure. They wanted to be good on the counter, and they were extremely efficient. If you look at the expected goals, they outperformed it, and Eintracht were somewhat where you'd expect for them, up until obviously they scored the 4-2 and 4-3. A couple of talking points from that is, one, Can Özun, who is the first teenager that has scored in his first 4 games of the Bundesliga, continuing in great form. Going off our point in terms of the type of players that Eintracht are recruiting and the type of players that they can sell for 80, 90 and above, would not be surprised if Can Özun is one of them. But then we have to include the hat-trick hero that is Ollie Burke, the Scotsman, because this is a journeyman. Believe it or not, that he has more clubs than what you have had. But the difference, I guess, is that he's never properly settled at a place, nor has his goal record been very impressive. There's always been a huge kind of expectation in terms of his potential, in terms of his speed and his strength, and what he can provide to a team as such. what you saw from Ollie Burke yesterday, just happened to punish Eintracht at was time, was that it was a manifestation of everything that a club, every time they signed him, what they hoped from Ollie Burke. He was a record teenager signing. When RB Leipzig signed him, he also went to West Brom for 15 million. Even when Union Berlin signed him, they thought, okay, why are we signing him from Bremen? What's he probably done? Last year on loan at Birmingham, he had scored 0 goals in the league. So up comes Ollie Burke, and yeah, hat trick for him against Eintracht, the first Union player to score a hat trick in the Bundesliga away from home, only the third in total, and that gave Union Berlin a very impressive 4-3 victory to Eintracht Frankfurt.
And I understand also that Ollie Burke is not really 100% in Steve Clarke's, the Scottish manager's plans. And it just reminds me of the 80s. I remember in 1988, 6 years before you were born, Marcus, Bayern Munich signed a good friend of mine, Erland Johnsen, who later played for Chelsea. And we got a new national coach at that time, and he was at that game. It was a 1-1 game. I scored a goal against Erland. I always remember that, of course, my goals. And then the national coach was asked about Erland Johnsen, who was just signed for Bayern Munich. And he said, well, I can always use a Bayern Munich player. And at that time in Norway, we didn't have professionals nearly. And we got a Bayern Munich player. And I just feel the same now with Steve Clarke. I mean, if you have a guy who goes to Frankfurt, makes a hat trick, scored 3 goals in the Bundesliga, Steve Clarke just somehow got to find a way to get use of him in the World Cup qualification. But all due respect to him, to go home with a match ball from Frankfurt. I mean, that is a great achievement of the Scotsman.
Worth noting also that Andre Ilic was the one who provided him with all 3 goals as well, 4-3 despite an attempted late comeback.
And I just say, in the beginning of the season, they were talking about Burkhardt, who came from Mainz, who's a new number 9 at Eintracht Frankfurt, and people got worried he hasn't scored and all that. And he scored against Galatasaray. He scored now against Union Berlin. So please shut up. A striker of his caliber, we always know that he will get his goals, but we also know that the most important thing for a striker is to get that first goal in a new club, in a new country, and it's worth watching that he's turning into that. And when Eintracht is flying again, everybody will say, oh, wow, they have a goal-getter on their hands. So I just noting that even with a 3-4 at home against Union Berlin.
And that is such as the nature of competing on all fronts as they do. But from one hat-trick hero to another, Dad, Bayern Munich beat Hoffenheim away. A pretty shaky first half for Bayern. But then the ever-present Harry Kane, the ever-historic Harry Kane scores a hat-trick, 2 of them being penalties. And Bayern they look so strong and inevitable, I guess.
If people come from another part of our big not Earth, but up in the sky, Marcus, if they came in UFO, the first question they will ask, how can he score so many penalties? And there is 2 parts of that answer is, first of all, how do they always get the penalty? That is, of course, because they have those kind of players, take on people, and blah, 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 blah. That is just how it is. And then the next question would be, how can he score on all these penalties? Because I think in all competition is 24 or 25 or something like that. Is it 17 in the Bundesliga that he scored? And he scored all of them. I mean, he's up there with a Letizia, with a Cantona, or Kjetil Rekdal that I used to play with, who also played with Hertha Berlin. He was a fantastic penalty taker. But I spent some time with Erling Haaland yesterday after the game, and we were talking through different things. And I kind of, he reminds me, we were talking about records, and of course, Erling knows all about records. And he said yesterday he equalized the most goal for a Norwegian in the Premier League, 91, Ole Gunnar Solskjær, 3 times more games, but Erling just keep on breaking records. And he said to me, of course, I know about Alan Shearer's record, most goals in the Premier League history, but Harry Kane is somehow the same. He's kind of breaking all records. And we're not forgetting Lewandowski, because he was breaking all the records too. I saw some stat markers, and you will have to correct me if you're wrong, because you are providing me with all stats. That is one of the fastest to ever come to 100 goals in a top 5 league, which is that is an amazing record when you see the players he's compared with.
Yes, because Harry Kane can, with a brace against Bremen, become the fastest player to reach 100 goals for a club in the top 5 leagues. Meaning, Cristiano Ronaldo and Erling Haaland reached 100 goals for Real Madrid and Manchester City, respectively, in 105 games. He's got 98 goals in 103 games. So, Harry Kane become historic. He's got the title out to the way, I guess, Dad, with the Bundesliga title. And now we are talking about one of the best strikers of all time. And looking at his start of the season as well, he's got 16 goal involvements in 7 matches this season. It's his 21st career hat-trick. He's got 282 goals in the top European leagues, top 5 European leagues. And he's got 127 goals assists in 103 Bayern games. I mean, are we almost underestimating him in terms of the discussion about the best ever number 9s?
No, I don't think so. The reason why we're kind of underestimating, quote, quote, is that it hasn't won so many trophies. I mean, that is quite simple as that. I'm going to be there on Friday. I'm going to work for ESPN at that game. I'm going to do that. And I look forward to that. And I will keep my record then in my head. I was also there at the first game against Leipzig. And the reason I tell you that is that we spoke to Vincent Kompany after the game. And my question to him was my observation that just before he scored 3, I said to Thomas Hisselberger, did I work with? I said he is too far away from the goal because Harry Kane goes down, he picks the ball up, he's a number 6 sometimes, he's a number 8, he's a number 10, he's all over the pitch. And not only that, he's a great lad with a great attitude, he's the England captain, he's beating the record there. So no, I think people in the branch will kind of understand that he's one of the best 9s ever been around. Of course, with England, he's been in 2 finals. If he won those 2 finals, people would easily put his name forward. But Harry Kane, we are witnessing records. We are witnessing history. And at this time of our generation, he's absolutely up there. I mean, you have a Lewandowski, and the funny thing is that he kind of took his legacy further on at Bayern. And you have Erling and you have good 9s around. But wow, Harry Kane is up there.
And just to go through the general sweep of the round then as well, we look at the Bundesliga table, the typical candidates, I think order is restored, so to speak, and the fact that it's Dortmund, it's RB Leipzig there behind Bayern. RB Leipzig at the very top there, I believe they are second or third, sorry, but with a negative goal difference because of their poor starts against Bayern when they got thrashed 6-0. But since then, 3 wins on the trot. They beat undefeated Köln 3-1, and would be surprised to see RB Leipzig at least in the Champions League spots, considering they're not playing European football this season. We had the Friday night's game. It was Stuttgart against St. Pauli. Demirovic there as well. Demirovic probably growing into that role. You had Voltemade, you had Undav. Remember how big of a role Demirovic played at Augsburg. Now at Stuttgart, was captain for the night as well, and had a goal to his name and growing into that role. And we know how good of a player Demirovic can be. Freiburg beat Bremen 3-0 away. What's to note there is that Noah Atabulo, the goalkeeper, saved 5 consecutive Bundesliga penalties. He's the first goalkeeper ever to achieve this streak. Freiburg back in form following a kind of a shaky start in their first couple of games. 2 games wins on the trot. Now, Augsburg lose 4-1 at home to Mainz, and that was with Mainz being down to 10 men. And Sandro Wagner, it wasn't long ago, he said after they played Bayern, I don't see much difference in quality between us and Bayern. Since then, they have lost 2 further games. They've 3 losses in a row. Sandro Wagner, interesting. We have to see a bit more, but in terms of the hype that was connected to him and the brand and the profile of him being Nagelsmann's number 2, a tall, good-looking guy, experiencing a bit of setbacks, but it's interesting to see how that will evolve as well.
Karma is a bitch. But now, on a serious note, Sandro Wagner will go his way as a coach. And sometimes, well, he contributes to the hype just being Sandro Wagner. I like him very much. I think that he's done the right thing that he's going to do after a good career that he's had. He started a lower division, then he went into being a number two. I think it also was a brave decision from him to go from a secure place, being number two for Nagelsmann, going into a World Cup. I mean, that is respect too. So he's looking after his career. But that 1-4 against Mainz, that is a terrible result for him, of course. But that just shows you this is not an easy ride to be a coach. It's so hard to be out there because what did Otto Rehhagel say? You have to win. You have to think long term, but you have to win short term. That is I always use that quote. But a career is like that. And now in 2025, if you've been at the club for 4.5 minutes, people will say you're a failure or you're a hit. I mean, people do that. But another guy, Marcus, that I saw back now, just to note at the end, a guy that we've followed for many years, and he didn't come onto the pitch for Leipzig, but Timo Werner was back. Timo Werner has been just out in the cold. Now they sold like every striker alive in Leipzig, and he still can't get a game, but he's back in business, and that was good to see. He was unused on the pitch, but still he was there, which was brilliant.
And I believe he is the club's all-time record goal scorer as well. So
probably is. Yeah.
An RB Leipzig legend. But yes, follow also Kaishu Sanu for Mainz. He scored 2 goals, defensive midfielder. But he is an interesting profile, plays every minute. I think they label him as the Iron Man, but Japanese midfielder. Have an eye for this type of profile. I wouldn't be surprised if he left at some point either. Hamburg recorded their first win for a long time in the Bundesliga as they beat relegation stragglers Heidenheim 2-1. Hamburg beat them in a kind of a must-win game if you're playing Heidenheim at home. Leverkusen looked like they were going to win through a Malik Tillman strike, but Gladbach equalized late. That was their first goal of the Bundesliga season. We know Gerald Seoane got fired from his Gladbach role as well, and then Dortmund do what they need to do against Wolfsburg. Niko Kovac up against his former clubs, and Adeyemi, who I'm a fan of, but it's just in terms of the consistency and the output. But Dortmund win 1-0 to bring them up in second place. And that concludes our Bundesliga summary. Dad, a lot to go through. The Bayern's inevitability, Hamburg recording first wins, and seeing some of the high performance from last season, like Mainz and Freiburg, picking up wins as well.
Auf Wiedersehen to all of you.
Auf Wiedersehen.